their older, experienced veteran starter benched due to injury, and they bring in their backup number 4. Another team, their older, veteran, experienced quarterback benched due to injury, and they bring in their number 4. Who will win? Who will survive? It's Dan Snyder versus Jim Irsay. Coming up this week, we'll discuss it on Command Desk.
Is that your Jim McMahon or your Vince McMahon voice?
Yours.
Let's go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Command This. It's our Thursday night live stream on the 27th of October, 2022. Tonight, we are going to preview the upcoming game versus the Indianapolis Colts. And to do that, we reached out to our new friends from the Bring the Juice podcast. Let's go ahead and welcome my boy Cody to the show. Cody, how you doing, man? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Coincidentally, I'm wearing yellow today, Washington yellow, so it wasn't intentional, but yeah, nonetheless, appreciate you guys having me on. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, maybe that was you secretly rooting us on, or is that maybe that's some bad juju coming?
See, I can't say this like to people on Twitter because I'll get crucified, but hey, if that means we get our future at quarterback, embrace the tank, man.
Embrace the tank.
He's cheering for us for the tank.
It's weird because they're 3-1, so it's like the season could go anywhere at this point. They could go on a run and they could be a playoff team, or they could just completely bomb and have a top 10 pick. Like, this is just a huge kind of crossroads for this team and where they're going to go. So I'm good with either as long as they figure out their franchise quarterback next year. And I think in order to do that, you lose more games. Colts aren't going to say that, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And for the audio crowd catching this on the replay on the podcast platforms, it's your boy Steve. We had Phil on the intro, and with us tonight is Cody Felger.
Yep, you had it
Felger
right.
From the Bring the Juice podcast, doing big things over in the Indianapolis Colts podcast community. So after this show, the link to their channel will be down in our description. So make sure you go check it out. We'll post their Twitter handle as well. So if you're listening from our side, go give them a listen, get some good Colts insight. We call this the enemy intel episodes we do every Thursday night as we preview the teams we're playing on Sunday or whenever the preview game is. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick this thing off. So Cody, regardless of who we have on our show, whether it's other Washington fans or fans from the opposing team, we always want to find out, what's your origin story for becoming a fan of the Indianapolis Colts? How did you come into this life and what does it mean to you? So just go ahead and give us a little bit of insight of how you became a Colts fan and actually how you got into podcasting for the Colts too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So started as a fan in, I believe I was like at 5th grade. My family watched football or cared enough about football. I had started getting into actually playing football at that point. And, I got into actually watching the Colts. Actually, the first game that I remember, ironically enough, was the 2006 Colts-Patriots AFC Championship. I just remember, I remember where I was sitting in my living room with my family. We were watching it, and I specifically just remember the Marlon Jackson, interception to seal it, Colts go to the Super Bowl. And then I remember watching the Super Bowl with my grandparents. And so that was kind of how I got into it. And then really from there, off and on, would watch them. Would call myself a fan. But then really when it took it to the next level was for me 2009 when the Colts went back to the Super Bowl. I was just all in on that team. I knew every player. I could tell you pretty much any stat, about the Indianapolis Colts from that season. And then, just kind of went from there. My passion for the Colts continued and into high school and, into what I wanted to do. And, I had a passion for wanting to do something in the sports media world. I thought for a little bit it was journalism. So I did some writing for a while for some different just companies and stuff like that. I worked for my local newspaper for a little bit, covered some high school football games, just try to get my feet wet a little bit, and so did that for a long time, and then really didn't get into the podcasting world full to where it is now. I mean, I started doing stuff on and off 2016, 2017, but then really didn't get into it honestly until the end of the 2018 season. Right. I listened to all the podcasts. I listened to probably every single bit of Colts content that you could consume. I was a person who consumed it, and I just absolutely loved it. And so from there, basically what happened was just after listening to it, I was like, I have my opinions. I know what I think about this team. I have a couple people that I really look up to. I'm gonna try my hand, and through a lot of trial and error, I will say. We eventually kind of got the podcast to where it is, and really just kind of took off, man. And really 2020, actually, when the lockdown happened and everything, we just were like, let's just put our heads down and crank out content. And then from there, the rest is history. And we sit here today, just very thankful and very humbled to be where we're at. So that's kind of a short, condensed version of my fandom and how that's led to creating content up to this point.
It's funny you mentioned that about the lockdown and COVID with the podcast. That's kind of how we got our start too. We were wanted to do it for the longest time, and then when COVID hit, it kind of funneled everyone into kind of doing it naturally, anyways, because you're cooped up, can't really do anything, and you want to talk football with your boys. It was just kind of natural fit. So very, very similar story. Appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And kicking it off with, talking about the 2022 Colts. So just give us a rundown. Tell us, in your honest opinion, who are the 2022 Colts?
It's funny. I wish I could. If you asked me this a year ago, I'd be able to tell you who this team was. I think I have a little bit of a clearer picture who they are now, because last week I probably would have been even more confused because their offense, they just came off a game where their offense, scored a ton of points, and they had, almost 400 yards passing, but then they kind of obviously came back to reality this year. So what I would say for this Colts is they're not great, and they're not a great coach team. I really don't think Frank Reich is doing a great job as the head coach, in my personal opinion. This team looks flat. They look unprepared, especially in the offense. The defense has looked good in moments. I think they've had some games where they look fantastic. They just came off a game in Tennessee where they only allowed 12 points, didn't allow a touchdown in that game. And then they had obviously the Denver game where they didn't allow a touchdown either. So this defense has been really, really good. And honestly, the reason why the Colts have 3 wins, in my opinion, for the most part, has been because of their defense and because of their special teams. And the reason why they have the 3 losses hasn't always been on the offense, but the majority of the time it's been the offense, with the offensive line, everybody regressing on that offensive line. Every single person, even Quentin Nelson, can be thrown into that category. He is not looking like he used to when he came into the league. And, Matt Ryan, I guess now, it's going to look a little different with Sam Ehlinger back there, but Matt Ryan, just looks, just bad decisions under duress, turnovers. That's been the story of this team. And they haven't been able to force turnovers on the defensive side like they did last year. And, I'll credit the defense. They've been able to do a pretty good job, given that Shaquille Leonard really is playing not even in a full game this year. And Quiddy Pay's been out for 3 weeks now or so. So this defense has faced some adversity, but I think the defense is playing playoff football while the offense is playing tank-like football, So that's kind of my opinion of this team right now. Is if they had a halfway competent offense, I really believe, guys, they'd have 4 or 5 wins easily.
So at this point, which way do you think they're going to go? I mean, right now they're kind of at a tipping point in the season, especially with the major news of this past week.
Yeah, that was huge news. I never thought that they would do that. I don't think the Colts are going to outright sell everybody and tank. I just want to say that right off the bat. But I do believe there's probably, let's be honest, less than 20% chance that Sam Ehlinger is the franchise guy moving forward. And So I kind of see it going, and fans won't like me saying this, and the team won't admit that this will happen. It'll just probably just happen. I see this team. It's more likely this team, in my opinion, guys, is going to have a top 10 draft pick as opposed to making the playoffs and winning the division. That's just my opinion. I mean, Sam Ehlinger could turn out to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't know. I don't see it happening because he's a 7th-round pick. I think he's very limited in his arm strength. He looked good in the preseason, but that was against 2s and 3s, guys. This is like NFL. Like, this is his first game as an NFL starter. So, it's going to be a big learning curve, and I don't think it's quite totally fair to Sam, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. I was going to sorry, Steve. I had
go ahead.
follow up to that. So you're talking about how there is a disparity between offense and defense. Mm-hmm. Give me an idea. Yeah, we're going to be watching this game, and we don't see the Colts very often. So tell me, I mean, if I'm a Commanders fan, which I am, you tell me, who am I supposed to be watching? Give me a player on offense and defense I should be watching for.
Like in a good way, like a guy that you would say.
Who am I looking at to be your difference maker on these side of the ball?
Absolutely. So the offense, the weird thing is, guys, outside of the offensive line and the quarterback play, which I think has been okay at times, I feel like the Colts have really good receiving options. Like I do when they choose to use them, which has been the biggest thing. Like there's just games where the tight ends go off for 150 yards between the three of them. And then there's games where they have 3 catches for 10 yards. Like you just don't know. And, but I would say if there's anybody on this offense that's shown consistently that they can be a difference maker, I'd say Michael Pittman Jr. this year, the number 1 wide receiver for Indianapolis. In my opinion, and I know there's some people who say he's not a number 1. I think he's continued to prove those people wrong, and he continues to show that he is the number 1 wide receiver in Indianapolis moving forward. I think he leads a talented wide receiver group that came in really unproven this year, but I think they have been honestly the least of concerns with this group because they also have Alec Pierce and they have Paris Campbell, who's actually healthy this year, who just had 10 catches for 70 yards a week ago. So they have some guys on this offense, and obviously they have Taylor, they have Hines in the backfield. So it really will come down to the offensive line play and the quarterback play. And if the Colts could get halfway competent, offensive line and quarterback play, I mean, they can easily do something offensively. It's been so overwhelmingly bad that it's just honestly capped what this offense has done. So For offense, I'd say Pittman. For defense, I got to go with my guy, Stephon Gilmore. I mean, you can't go against Gilmore. He's won the Colts 2 games this year. He won the game in Kansas City. He also had the game-winning interception against Denver. So Stephon Gilmore, still a lockdown corner. I think still one of the best in the league. Probably still a top 10 corner. So those would be my 2 guys. 2 guys that I think have proven it and have been pretty consistent, all things considered, throughout the season.
Yeah, that's fair. What about so you guys are 3-3, right? 3-3. Did I get that?
3-3
right? 3-1. Sorry, you had a tie, the weird tie to open the season up versus Houston.
Yes.
So you play the Jaguars, lost 24-0. You beat the Chiefs, which is impressive, 20-17. Lost to the Titans, who we also lost to. Lost to them 17-24. Beat the Broncos 12-9 in overtime. You beat the Jaguars 34-17, and you lost to the Titans again 19-10. So that puts you at 3-3-1. And we're sitting at 3-4. Any of those games? There's a couple, I guess, blowouts, but any of those games you think they could have went? Clearly, you were like a play from being, 5-3 or 4-3 now. With any of those games this close to be the other way, or it was clearly going to be 3-3-1 no matter what?
Yeah, so I will say this: week 1, Colts should have won that game. They're now the guy who's no longer employed by them, Rodrigo Blankenship, completely shanks a game-winning field goal in overtime, and they just tie. So they'd have 4 wins there. And then, guys, I think at least one of those games, if they had a halfway competent offense, they would have won one of those Tennessee games, because the fact that, honestly 6 straight quarters, guys. So second half of the first game and then the entire 4 quarters of the second game, the Colts did not allow a touchdown to Tennessee. And their offense just couldn't pick up the slack. And also Matt Ryan threw a pick 6 last week as well, which obviously spotted them 7 points. And that would have made that game a whole lot closer in the grand scheme of things. So all that to say, yeah, the Colts are just a couple bad plays away from being, a 5-win football team. But also on the flip side of things, the Colts also could only have 1 win at this point, guys, as well, because the Kansas City one, that was kind of an anomaly sort of game. If Chris Jones doesn't jump off sides, Colts lose that game or commit that penalty or whatever he did. I can't remember what he did at the moment. And then if Russell Wilson sees his man wide open, they win that game. So, I think it's less about the games the Colts should have won. It's less like the Colts took those games and won those games. It's more like those teams, lost the game for their team. Those players lost the game for their team, I should say. Yeah. That's kind of how I've looked at it this year. Like in years past, the Colts would go and take wins, right? And they just haven't done that this year. They've kind of just almost fell into wins, which is a weird way to put it. I know, but that's kind of how it's felt this year. It's something is different. Even though the record is one of the better ones that the Colts have had in the last couple of years, it's a different feel in this locker room, guys, this year than it has been in years past. In the whole Frank Reich era, they never benched their starting quarterback, even when they were 1-5, they didn't bench their starting quarterback. And it just goes to show how weird this season is for Indianapolis, because even though they have a winning record, technically, it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's like after we beat the Bears a couple weeks ago on Thursday Night Football, we just felt kind of dirty. Yeah. It was an ugly win. We win, but we were just like, 2 weeks ago, if we'd been having this conversation, we would have told you our season was over, and it wasn't going to happen, and it just wasn't going to work out for us. But let's see who joined. Let's bring our boy Dev in. Dev, thanks for tuning in, man. Glad you got your technical issues solved. Well, I spoke too soon. I guess he did not. We can hear you perfectly fine.
We hear you, Dev.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yo, there we go.
So Cody, going back to just recapping some stats here for the Indianapolis Colts. So points for your offense, you guys are ranked 30th in the league for scoring. Your offense is ranked 16th in total yards. So clearly you guys are struggling on offense with Matt Ryan at the helm. And then on defense, which is actually, kind of a bright spot for you guys, 13th in points allowed and 9th in total yards. So the defense seems to be, no slouch for you guys at all this year. But a question I wanted to ask you was, so this is no secret, Jim Irsay had a clear opinion about how he felt about Carson Wentz after the end of last season. So my question to you is, what did you think of Carson Wentz last year? Given everything and all the success of Michael Taylor and all that stuff, the offseason, Irsay's comments, Carson coming to Washington, and then the onboarding and the inception of Matt Ryan to where we are now. Just give us a rundown and tell us what you think about that whole thing and how it went down.
Yeah, that was a very interesting situation, wasn't it? So this is kind of how I look at it. Like it's clear to me, and you guys could probably tell at this point in the season, Carson's probably not the franchise guy, right, anymore. I think we can kind of put that to bed. I don't necessarily know if I agree with the way that Irsay handled it and just kind of the things that came out. I don't really think that was the most professional way to go about it. I do understand, though, just the Carson Wentz experience. It's an interesting experience because some weeks he goes and throws for 300 yards and looks like a superstar. And then the other weeks you're just like, Carson, what are you even looking at? So it's a very up and down kind of thing. And so, yeah, it was just a very unique situation, I think, with Jim Irsay and Carson Wentz. It never felt like from the start it really was a match, and then you go out and get Matt Ryan, who I think is more off the field is more what the Colts were hoping for, but on the field just, struggled this year. So I think all that to say, I think that was more of a Frank Reich move than a Jim Irsay or a Chris Ballard move to bring Carson in. And then, Jim, I feel like Jim's taken a little bit more control recently, with some decisions happening, regarding the quarterback position. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't love how it ended. I wish that it could have been handled in a better way. I will say I am glad that you guys took him from us, because that was a big contract, and somehow we got a, at worst third round pick out of it, an extra third. I guess we got a third round pick and another third round pick this year that could turn into a second. And by the way, I'll just say it right now.
It's not. He's out 4 to 6 weeks.
It's probably not. Yeah, I'm going to say it's probably not. But hey, I have to hold off hope a little bit that it might. We'll see. Carson's a fast healer, so hopefully. But anyway, all that to say, of course, Carson Wentz continues to screw us over even a year after. It just was a rough situation, all things considered. But I wish Carson nothing but the best moving forward and everything. But yeah, it just was there's so much drama there. It's just like, let's just move on and kind of let it be in the past.
It's crazy because he's been like the no drama mama here. Like, that's the unique thing. Like, it's been an up and down thing here. Although, if you watch the games with us, you realize that a lot of it was our offensive line there were some injuries, and they were trying to shuffle guys around, trying to figure out that right mixture. And he went out 2 games there where there was just nothing on the interior line holding up. So it was, and Carson, while he can move on like a design rollout, he's not the most fleet of foot guy. So he was taking hits left and right. He took 9 sacks against the Eagles, but if you count it, 7 of them were on the offensive line. Like, he had no chance.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that that you had that, but had that experiment, and it's really interesting because before the season, we kind of looked at this game as the Carson Wentz revenge game. A Carson Wentz revenge game. He was going to go out there against his replacement, and he was going to beat him. And neither one of these quarterbacks are going to be on the field come Sunday. No Matt Ryan, no Carson Wentz. It's a pair of 4s. I'm curious. Tell me, I don't know much about Sam Ehlinger. Is it Ehlinger? Do I have
Ehlinger,
it right?
Yeah.
Ehlinger.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about him. I've heard the name before. I remember him in college. I remember not being that impressed with him in college. Tell me, what do Colts fans see in this guy that that they don't see in Matt Ryan?
Well, I think the most obvious thing is he can move. Like, he's not like a Lamar Jackson, but he definitely can make plays happen with his legs. We saw that in the preseason. And with how bad this offensive line has been, he's probably going to have to use those legs a lot more. But can run, when he needs to make a play with his legs, can roll out, make a throw on the run. Doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. But he just offers some upside and just a change of what your offense will look like a little bit. Because, guys, this Colts offense was miserably boring to watch through 7 weeks. I'm just so glad that the Colts are spicing it up, because I look at it like this, guys. It's going to be fun either way. Either Sam's the guy, which I think, like I said, is not like a great chance that happens, or it's at least fun to watch. Even if they don't win. And the Colts go get a top 10 pick. So, Sam's a guy that he's a smart quarterback. I just think he maybe lacks some of the tools to be, a starting NFL quarterback. I think he makes a great backup. And I think the reason the Colts are starting him is because he's only in year 2. So you never know with these young guys. But yeah, I'm not like overly impressed with them either. I just think it's a nice change of pace from what you had. And why not throw him out there? It really can't get worse on offense right now.
I have to laugh because you sound like how we describe our backup quarterback that's coming in. He's mobile. He's not Lamar Jackson, but he can move. He doesn't have a great arm, but in our case, it's actually he forces the offense to be a little less exciting in terms of just like downfield pressure, because he just does not have Wentz's arm. Excited us. We hadn't had a real downfield presence passing the ball since 2018, 2019. We've been dink and dunk, very, very short field, short yardage passing. And then Wentz, goes out there and he's throwing deep balls to Terry McLaurin, deep balls to John Dotson, deep balls to De'Ami Brown that we just hadn't seen. And now we're back to Taylor Heineke, who is very limited in his arm talent. And I just think it's interesting because the way you just described Sam is how we describe Taylor for the most part, except for the fact that Taylor has this what I call the Heineke, the Heineke hive, that will tell you that he is Drew Brees reincarnate, that he is a borderline Pro Bowler. And I'm like, guys, calm down. He's a really good backup.
Hey, he's a Matsu. He's the Matsu Mamba.
Is there a similar group of people in Indianapolis who are really like behind this kid, Sam, that they think that y'all have a diamond in the rough that's going to be turned into this, borderline elite quarterback?
Oh yeah. I think you'll have that with any fan base. It's new. So, and people, he had a great preseason. I'll say that. So people are hyped. They're just like, not everybody, but a lot of people are like, all right, well, Sam's going to be the future. The Colts have really found a guy here. And I'm like, I just don't know how you could say that. He's a 6th round pick, and he's not really like physically anything like that. But there's a chance, I don't want to say there's 0 chance he turns out because he really could. You just don't know with these guys until you see him in action. And, if he just has a great season and maybe the Colts feel like he can be their guy moving forward. It's so hard because we've literally never seen him play against like real NFL competition. So this will be literally his first start ever.
Well, our franchise has a historical trait of if you bring in a guy like that who is unproven, untested, we will make him look like a Pro Bowler for a week. So your fan base is going to be really excited, I'm sure.
There's an added philosophy that if you have 2 quarterbacks of the same skill set, you have no quarterbacks at all.
Right.
And I'm not comparing Sam to Matt Ryan, but in our boat, we have Carson and we have Taylor Heineke. Taylor might be doing great right now, but the bottom line is we don't have the long-term answer as a franchise quarterback. And that's why we are freaking miserable. Because I don't know if you've seen the jersey that has about, the 23 different quarterbacks we've had since 2000 and whatever, 2. You guys have been lucky. You had the stability of Peyton Manning for so long, and then Andrew Luck, who unfortunately retired early. But we over here don't know what it's like to have a franchise quarterback, because I would argue that we haven't had one since Joe Theismann, if you want to say that, in like the 83 through 86, 85 time frame.
78 to 85.
There you go. So he feels our resident historian. But Sam Ehlinger, he's 6'1", 222. So he's not.
Oh my God, he's even the same size.
Taylor Heineke's 6'1", 210. So the height is the same-ish, but we know that Sam is pretty mobile on his feet, right? Taylor's kind of the same, but that's what I know from watching Sam is he's pretty mobile, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's pretty mobile. Yeah, he can make plays happen with his legs.
How's his arm strength?
I would say about average, like maybe even slightly below average. Like it's nothing special. He can make the throws, but it's nothing like, oh my goodness, out of this world. I wouldn't say he has a weak arm or anything, but yeah, it's just like it's a backup quarterback arm, in my opinion.
That's fair. That's fair.
Now, one last question on the offense. All right, you guys have Jonathan Taylor, who led the league in rushing last year, and the Colts are now 30th in rushing, and you got Hines in the backfield as well. So even when I know Taylor's had some injuries this season, and but I know Hines is a capable backup. How is the Colts offense only 30th in rushing ball this year? I would think that it seems like both sides of the ball, because the defense is also 23rd against the rush. What is it about the ground game and against the ground game that seems to be the struggle for the Colts to defend, both establish and defend against?
I think it comes back to the lines again, guys. Like the offensive line has been so poor. Jonathan Taylor's been banged up. He came back last week, and also due to coaching as well, he only had 10 carries, guys, in that game, and he was averaging almost 6 yards a carry. Like it's baffling, and that's why Frank Reich.
Get that lucky.
Yeah, I know, right? But like Frank Reich, just for whatever reason, he goes away from the things that work with this team. Like the Colts have talent on offense. That's what's so frustrating about this team is it's not like this offense is like barren and has no talent. They have a lot of talent, but the bad has been overwhelmingly bad to the point where it's impacting the good. And that's exactly what's happening with Taylor, and I still think he's a great running back. Hines has been injured as well. He came back last week as well. So the Colts had to be relying on their third string running back, Deion Jackson, who's actually looked pretty good, but it was like the Colts almost had been using the short passes as an extension of their running game because the offensive line could not run block and sustain run blocking at all. And in terms of the run defense, I think the Colts kind of tried to make a transition a little bit more to getting after the quarterback as opposed to stopping the run. So that's probably part of it. But also Cody has been out, who's one of the better run defenders in the NFL. He's been out for multiple weeks. So that definitely, because this run defense started out like pretty solid. But yeah, that just kind of has started to fizzle out. And, and I think that's kind of part of why it's just some inconsistency from both of the lines, offense and defense.
Yeah, that's fair. So let's talk injury report right now. At least I'm gonna show that what at least is being reported from our reporters here. If you can provide any clarification, if it's there, if it's wrong, but this is so Nikki Javala, she's a beat reporter here in Washington. This is what she's showing for today, and for the audio crowd, I'll just rip it off for Washington. Sadiq Charles, Jahan Dotson, Cole Holcomb, William Jackson, who was probably trying to be traded, but nobody wants him, and Cole Turner didn't practice on Wednesday. Yesterday, we don't have the updates from today. De'Ami Brown, Logan Thomas, Jonathan Williams are limited, and Sam Cosmi and Taylor Heineke are both full. So that's all good signs, at least for us. I don't know if we're going to see Jahan Dotson, our rookie first round pick out of Penn State, wide receiver. He's nursing a hamstring. And then William Jackson is on the brink of being traded. He's played so terrible this year, and I think he's nursing a back, air quotes. So we'll see. But having Logan Thomas back will be huge for us because he's always been a safety valve for Taylor Heineke. And then Sam Cosmi on the right side at tackle. Having him healthy will be fantastic. And for the Colts, at least this is what's reported. Stephon Gilmore got some rest today. Defensive end Yannick Ngakoue also got some rest. Kwity Paye, like you said, ankle, didn't practice. Matt Ryan with the shoulder. I'll murder my dog here in a second. Grant Stewart, JoJo Damon.
Just kidding, Peter. Don't be getting no red flags on our accounts, man. He's just kidding.
It always happens.
No Michael Vick around here.
Center Ryan Kelly was limited. Wide receiver Kiki Kuti was full. Zaire Franklin, Shaquille Leonard, Luke Rhodes full. You have any insights from any of the? Is that injury report inactive or accurate? Is there any updates for Thursday for today that you might have that we don't have on this end?
Yeah. So this not Thursdays then?
No. I could only find Wednesdays from our beat reporters.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can pull up Thursdays here for a second. I actually haven't got an opportunity to look at it.
Greedy Williams, by the way, has been looked at as a trade candidate to us this weekend from Cleveland, the corner.
The cornerback. We sure could use him, man.
That's a rumored discussion being held today.
Yeah. I mean, we can sure use the help.
Yeah. Well, just looking at the injury report, really nothing of note. Kwity Paye did miss another practice. I don't think he'll probably go this week. But everybody else, Grover Stewart had a rest day today. But other than that, no, it's pretty much the same as Wednesdays.
Okay. Good to hear. So I guess it's semi-accurate then.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's go on to this one. Colts win if. What do the Colts have to do to win this game?
Give Sam any sort of time at all, and I think the Colts win this game. I think their defense has played well enough where you can say, hey, their defense is going to be able to limit Heineke in this offense. And they've been playing so well. Like I don't know. I feel like it's going to be one of those ugly games again, guys. I really do feel like it's going to be one of those games. But if the Colts offense can do anything to protect Sam Ehlinger, I think that they have a good chance to do something here, but that'll be kind of the biggest thing. The Colts will win if they go with how their offensive line goes. If their offensive line continues to struggle, if you guys are just abusing whoever up front, like it's going to be a long day for Ehlinger back there.
Yeah, that's fair. Now I don't know how much you follow this team, but on our front defensive front four, we have 4 first-round picks. Chase Young is out, but we have Montez Sweat on the outside, Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, who, in all respect, they have been wreaking havoc on teams all year long. So when you tell me you guys, your offensive line is busted, that tells me that those guys are going to do great. And there's a stat floating out there. I want to say we're at the top of the league in quarterback pressures without having to blitz. So that front four is able to get immense amount of pressure, and the linebackers or cornerbacks or safeties never have to blitz. It's like the one thing that's working out great for us. So, kind of counteracting your thing about the line, it kind of makes you feel a little bit better that our defensive front might actually, be predominant. But I'm not really sure. I'm not going to hold my breath, but that's what I'm looking forward to. Go ahead, Phil.
Colts win if Taylor Heinicke comes out and plays the way he did in the first 20 minutes of the Green Bay game. You can't get away with that twice, period. I mean, he threw 4 nearly intercepted balls and a pick 6 and had a fumble that was returned for a touchdown called back because of a defensive holding penalty. And if they had scored that touchdown, the game's over. We're not coming back because you can't run the balanced offense needed. So the Colts, that's how the Colts can win. The Colts can win if Heinicke comes out erratic again. He can't do that again. Especially with their pass defense, which is 7th in the league in yards allowed. They're going to be stingy. So you can't do that.
What about you, Dev? You can flip it to Washington wins if too, man.
I got Washington wins if too, but I'll let Dev go.
All right, we'll flip through Colts win if. Go ahead, Dev.
All right, Colts win if they create turnovers. I think that's the key to the game. I think whoever turns the ball over the most loses. That's how I feel. And I'll go ahead and say it while I'm here. Washington wins if they don't give the Colts turnovers. I felt like Heinicke could have thrown 3 interceptions easily last game in the first half alone.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he also had that fumble that was returned for a touchdown, got called back because of a horrible holding call on the other end. That would have been another one. So I just, I guess both sides, the same thing. Whoever turns the ball over the least probably wins if.
Okay, fair. Our boy Andre chiming in from YouTube said Colts win if Heinicke plays sloppy, and the Colts also win if the defense doesn't keep pressure on the Indy quarterback. That's true. We kind of just said it. Go ahead, Phil.
Washington wins if they do what they did against Green Bay and establish a strong run game. This is the weakness of the Colts defense is against the run. We put up 166 yards on a similarly ranked Green Bay rush defense. If you can put up, if you can run the ball 35, 38, 40 times and get 140, 160 yards rushing combined out of that, multi-headed beast of a backfield, then you should be able to win because you're controlling time of possession and you're going to force the Colts to lean more on an unproven quarterback. And that's what you got to do. You got to put them in a position where they have to pass the ball to win right now. With Matt Ryan, I mean, Matt Ryan's definitely on the downside of his career, but he's veteran enough to have, crafty little tricks up his sleeve. The Chiefs found that out. So if you're putting the pressure on them where they're just not getting the time with the ball, they're going to have to, move to a passing offense predominantly. And I think that's going to be the key to Washington winning the game is controlling the clock, establish that run game.
Do you think they blitz early and often this game? We don't blitz at all. I think we blitz maybe like 3 times the last game total.
We don't have to.
Right, but we think we do just because it's a rookie quarterback?
In theory, everyone knows when you have a rookie behind center, you blitz the shit out of him. But that's not, we might not have to with the front four, but I don't know.
I think you'll see Jamin Davis blitz more. You'll see more Jamin Davis. He might
not play. Hell,
you might see more of like another guy they like to bring off the corner here lately is Wild Goose. Lord knows he can't cover, so you might as well have him, blitzing. And he seems to be pretty effective, at least getting into the backfield off the nickel corner blitz. So that you may see some of that, just some unique looks. Confuse the kid. He hasn't seen a lot of pro defense. He's seen a lot of vanilla preseason defense.
Fair. For me, I think Washington wins if I think the two major weapons, like Cody said, is Michael Taylor and Pittman.
Jonathan Taylor.
I would only prefer, because I've seen what, and I have my fantasy team. I hate to go back to the fantasy thing, but Jonathan Taylor is great. We see what he did in 2020, 21, and he hasn't been able to replicate in 2022. My fear is that he somehow has his, coming out game for 2022 against us, and it just scares me to death because I know how good he can be. So I think Washington wins if we can somehow neutralize Jonathan Taylor. That's what I think we have to do to win this game. That's what it's going to come down to. The Sam Ehlinger thing, it's going to be difficult. We haven't had a whole lot of success against mobile quarterbacks. We tend to not have a lot of success against mobile quarterbacks. So I don't know. Could be the wild card. Maybe not. I don't know. But Cody, my question for you for Ehlinger, you saw him in the preseason. He hasn't had any chance to play this year, right? He hasn't had any spot plays. It's been Matt Ryan 100% the whole year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So does he have any tendencies? Does he have is he I watched him a little bit at Texas. He pretty mid-level starter quarterback down there in Texas, but is there something that might fluster him? Is he a one read, I'm going to run type of guy? Because we know that's good for rookies. A rookie who's mobile is great because I think it helps with development. So,
right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think just like with any rookie quarterback, like they haven't seen these kinds of defenses, right? And all that Sam has seen, like you guys talked about, has really been vanilla defense. So I think if you show him one thing and then you disguise it as something else, that's going to throw him off. Like that's going to, because he hasn't learned that yet. He just hasn't. And so, I think that would be a good way to kind of do that. It's hard because you see, I think maybe he will kind of stare down a receiver a little bit too much as well, as you do. And then maybe it could be a little bit too trigger happy in terms of taking off and going. And maybe he could just stay in the pocket and deliver a pass. We'll see, guys. I mean, this is really like his first action, so it's hard to say what we're going to see from Sam because I really don't know. I have never seen him play a meaningful snap in the NFL.
Are you guys excited though to see him?
It's about time we see
Matt Ryan that bad.
Are you more excited to hopefully lose out and get one of these top-notch quarterbacks?
So I said it at the top of the show. I'm excited for whatever. If Sam turns out to be the guy, cool, great. You found your franchise guy. I think it's less than 20% that happens. I think it's more likely the Colts get top 10. And I'm excited about that because this team infuriates me because they just put Band-Aids on Band-Aids when it comes to quarterbacks. And I'm done with it. Build it the right way. Stop being afraid to take a chance on a rookie.
Maybe that's a bad owner trait.
Yeah, the GM is just scared to do it, man. He's scared to do it. And he would never admit that, obviously, but
probably scared of Irsay.
Yeah, I'm almost hoping Irsay makes him do it. If he keeps him, and I'm honestly not hoping he really keeps him either.
I feel like if Wentz was still in Washington and y'all were to lose Sunday, everyone would be fired. I almost feel like it could happen with Heineke.
Yeah.
If it's something bad, if it's a bad loss, I feel like Irsay might fire everybody, man. I think that could happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Irsay's never really been a guy that fires midseason or whatever. He usually waits till the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, Irsay's promised so many things to Colts fans that have not even come remotely true. We can't even win a week 1 game, guys. It's been that bad. This coaching staff, this regime, it's just, it's the same old tendencies. And it's kind of just I think it's ready to, a lot of fans and probably a lot of players are kind of just ready for something new, ready for a change at guard a little bit. Because, I mean, you've tried to basically just patchwork it since Andrew Luck's been retired. And it just hasn't worked. Like, you can't just keep going and getting these 37, 38-year-old quarterbacks
right,
and hoping it works for a couple of years. Like, you need to find your guy and you need to build it around him. Like, that's how every team that is a contender does it. And we
Not
don't.
Washington.
We haven't.
We feel your pain. And we had Colt McCoy, Alex Smith, Case Keenum. I mean, we drafted Dwayne Haskins. It turned out did not to work out. And we went out and got, now Carson Wentz. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I mean, you guys have been blessed with Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, at least for Andrew Luck for that short time frame. But it's our hell down here in Washington. Really, it is not fun when talking about the quarterback. And we have, I don't know how much you follow college football, but we have Sam Howell, coming out of UNC, who we drafted, I want to say in the 4th or 5th. Don't quote me. Fifth round. And showed flashes of greatness in the preseason. And so when the call was made that we heard that Carson broke his ring finger on his throwing hand, the fan base was calling for Sam Howell. It's Sam Howell time. We got to look to the future because we know what Taylor Heineke is. We've seen this movie before. And so we got to see what we have at our supposedly future, because Sam Howell had a first round grade on him in 2021. And in 2022, he lost his offensive line. 2019 and 2021, he lost his entire offensive line. He just didn't play well his senior year.
7 offensive starters.
Offensive starters. And so from us, a lot of people are looking long term, like you said, Cody, is we're trying to see what we have in the future, because next year, if we are in a bad place, there's a lot of good quarterbacks coming out, but you still need to be in that top, 6, 7 tops to be competitive to get one of those guys. This team always messes around, and Taylor Heineke will win enough games to put us back to like 16th to 20th.
Right now, if we drafted, would be 15th. What good would that do? What?
Yeah, and you're not getting a top tier quarterback at 15. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I've felt a glimpse of that like recently. It's just like how can Irsay sit back and let this happen? Because he's seen 2 of them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you would think that he would, and I get it, he's trying to be hands off, but like there's good prospects this year. Like, this is a great year to go get your quarterback.
Man, he's gonna fire the shit out of Frank Reich.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be done, man. And the sad thing is, like, I don't feel like this team is as bad as like they're playing right now at all. I think it's majorly into coaching. GM deserves some blame for sure. But mainly I just think it's just coaching, and the players are just not being held accountable, because like the Colts have preached accountability, but their talk has been really cheap, guys, because they have not done anything with that. And especially offensively, and they keep rolling out guys that shouldn't be playing, shouldn't be starting. And I'm just kind of like, at this point, play the young guys, play the rookies, kind of like you said. Like, we have a starting left tackle, or he should be the starter. I don't know if he will be, Bernard Ryman. The 3rd round pick. I think he's played fine, but they've been starting Dennis Kelly over there, who really struggled last week. And I'm just like, just let him learn and grow, man. Like, just let him learn and grow. Why not at this point? And we'll see if they do that. I don't know. But yeah, I've always have one eye towards the future, especially if you've done what you've done at the quarterback position. Like, let's not try to pretend we're competing anymore, because we're not. Like,
well, let me ask you this, Cody, because Phil and I think we have, at least when we were in dark times 2 weeks ago, we have philosophical differences, because I'm with you. I think there's a graceful way of tanking, and Phil is like, no, you play your best people all 17 games, no matter what. So
at least until you're mathematically eliminated.
There you go.
I firmly believe that if you signal early, hey, we're punting on the season, it's not good for the players who are going to be there. You're not playing meaningful games, meaningful snaps. You don't have that extra fire of we're playing for something. And that's going to lead to sloppy habits on the field. It leads to injury because you're just not as aware. You're not as keen. Your senses aren't as sharp. Steve and I have had some, and honestly, I never liked the word tank. I think and people say, well, it's not really tank. You're just seeing what you got. No, you're tanking, and everybody knows it.
We're tied for 7. Is the Matt Ryan right shoulder, is it an injury or it's an excuse to play Sam and to look to the future? Because with Carson, you could legitimately
I could answer that question
hit
for
his
him.
hand on a helmet. Like he is legitimately injured.
I can answer that question for him. He's got a bonus kicker if he pays 80% of the plays for the Colts. That was on ESPN. And you add this in. Nick Foles is on the team. Think about this. They just bypassed Nick Foles to go to Ehlinger.
Super Bowl MVP.
Let you know. I mean, it's actually I'm not even clowning the Colts for this. It's genius, and it's what we should be doing, bro. I mean, keep it real. That's smart. It's like, hey, man, we know what Ryan is. Why were we going to waste our time to be in purgatory just 7-10 or 8-9 or some shit? Why don't we just play this guy? Maybe he's good. If not, we know he's not, and we can draft somebody next year. What's going to happen to us is we're going to next year not knowing what Hal is, man. Unless Duke gets hurt. So next year the excuse is going to be, well, let's see what Hal is before we draft another quarterback. That's what it's going to be, man. We're going to end up in the same situation next year. So in that case, you might as well keep Wentz.
Year 4 of a coach, and you have no idea what you're doing at quarterback. Cody, is Nick Foles dressing up as a number 2, or Matt Ryan's going to be the backup?
Yeah, so Matt Ryan's not even going to be a backup right now. At least right now, we'll see. Frank Reich is very non-committal right now, and he said it was a very serious. I think it was a grade 2 shoulder separation or something like that. So it's pretty significant. Like there actually is an injury there, and so I think he's probably going to miss the rest of the season if I'm guessing. Because I think that's probably a 4 to 6, if not more, week.
Yes, it's one of the things like Wentz. Like Wentz comes back. If Wentz comes back and we're winning, they're not going to put him in. If Wentz comes back and we're losing, why would you put him in? Is that so you might as well just say he's not going to play the rest of the year. It's the same thing with Ryan. By the time he will come back, it's like, well, the season will be decided one way or the other. And if you're in a situation where you're making the playoffs, that probably means this Ehlinger kid is playing good enough to take that job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like either you're going to be a playoff team. I kind of look at it like this, like with Sam, like either he's going to be good and you're like, we don't care if we're in the top 10, because we found our guy, or he's going to be really bad. And like you said, man, like
win-win.
Yeah, you're going to get your guy, hopefully.
Yeah. We need new GMs, dude.
That's
what I feel about it.
On the screen here, Cody, is Matt Ryan's contract. You can see next year you can cut him, but if you cut him pre-June 1st next year, it's going to be an $18 million cap hit. So to me, if you trade him after June 1st, it's $6 million. You release him after June 1st, it's $18 million. You trade him after June 1st, it's a $6 million cap hit. That seems like your best scenario is to trade him in the offseason, which I guarantee someone will trade for him at that rate, though, at a $29 million cap. I'm not sure. So my question to you is, do you think the Colts will just completely cut him and suck up that $18 million cap hit next offseason, or will they keep him and use him as an insurance policy for either Sam or for, like you said, if you're in a top 5 and you can land a quarterback?
Yeah, that's tough, guys, because maybe they find a happy medium where they keep him for another year, and they just like ask him to take a pretty decent sized pay cut. Like I could see him being.
I think he has an injury settlement or injury clause in his contract. They were talking about it on ESPN today. They have something in his contract where if he doesn't play so many downs because of injury, that either his contract is voidable or he doesn't get something.
Cody, I'm going to say this now. If Matt Ryan ends up in Washington next year, we're going to come back on and we're going to duke this out because that'll be 2 years in a row.
Hey, there you go.
It better not happen. It better not happen.
I was going to say, I never in my right mind after, what happened at the end of the year, thought the Colts would be able to get a team that would give them actual draft capital and take on Carson's whole contract. But that's just kind of like there's certain teams out there like Washington, unfortunately for you guys, that are quarterback desperate, and they're willing to pay a lot more than anybody would think for a quarterback. And maybe Matt Ryan's a little bit different because he's older. But yeah, I think also, guys, the Colts were totally willing to cut Carson. Like they were willing to do that. So I think they would not be opposed to cutting Matt if they need to. I think, they'll look for a trade partner. I think they'll probably find one, but if not, I think they would be okay with taking that hit. I do.
They probably would be able to find someone who's drafting in that top 5, or maybe someone who gets a rookie quarterback who they don't know how they're gonna work out, and use Matt as an insurance policy for that team as well. But Phil, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say that the big difference between two is that Carson Wentz was 30. He's still prime years, whereas Matt Ryan's pushing 40.
Right.
So there's a little bit of a difference there. I don't know. I mean, if I'm the Colts, I mean, you might want to just cut him and eat that dead cap for a year. But that's just
if they trade Matt. If they trade Matt, I think it's only $6 million.
I don't think they're going to. No one's going to want to trade for Matt.
Man, you never know. What if like Tom Brady gets knocked out for the year, or somebody like Garoppolo gets knocked out for the year the next week or two?
Yeah,
never know.
One piece away.
Man, you never know, man.
Yeah. Moving real quick, let's go down for the predictions for the last thing. So, Cody, before we talk about predictions here, I just want to tell you the line. The opening Vegas line was Indianapolis -3 at home. I've seen it down to -2.5 at Indy. So I guess you could say it's either a pick 'em or Washington for a 0.5 favorite, depending on how you look at it, or which sports book you're looking at it. And they got the over under
39.5.
I've seen 39.5 and I've seen 40. So that's a relatively low scoring matchup in the NFL. And then when you're looking at the pick 'em, it's also pretty close too. So that being said, what do you think this game's going to be like? Let's give us a scoring prediction and let's just go from there.
Yeah, I actually think it's going to be under 39, guys. I think it's going to be that miserable of a game. I had my score prediction for this game was going to be 17-14, and I had Washington winning this game. Just because Sam Ehlinger's essentially a rookie. And, you got at least Heineke, like you talked about, he's good enough for you guys to squeak this game out, I think. So for those reasons, I just don't think this offense is going to get things going with just how bad this offensive line is. I mean, Sam's going to be under pressure about every play, I think. So I think it's just going to be a defensive battle, but I think at the end of the day, I'm going to pick Washington to pull this game out, just barely.
Okay, fair. You got 17-14 Washington.
Yep.
Phil, I'll go to you.
Oh, I'm in agreement. This is going to be an ugly game because let's face it, that's how all Taylor Heineke games are. But it really, really is. If you look at the scores and everything, I mean, very few of them are, clean, high scoring or clean, medium scoring games. I think we're going to continue to run the ball like we did last week, and that's going to be the difference. I'm going to say 17-13 Washington.
17-13. Okay. Kev, what do you got?
Can y'all hear me okay? Because I think I'm frozen.
Yep. No, we got you.
All right, cool.
You're good.
I'm gonna go blowout, man. I think we show ass and then we lose out the rest of the year.
Throw a score out there.
I think that the hatred that Snyder is probably instilling into Washington players against Jim Irsay right now is going to be the driving force. I also think that they want Frank Reich up out of there. And I think it'll be 27-10 good guys.
27-10 Washington.
If y'all noticed that shotgun score against us last week, so I might give myself the
Glock Dookie Award.
Glock Dookie.
I was on Deuce's channel earlier, Red Zone in the Lab podcast, another Washington Command podcast. I made a comment that Dan Snyder and Jim Irsay should throw hands on the 50-yard line at halftime for the halftime show, because I don't know if you know this, Cody, but he made, we're going through a lot of turmoil with our owner and with all the off-field stuff, sexual harassment, bad environment, all the old stuff. And Jim Irsay came out last week at the owners meeting, made comments that he believes there's merit to remove him. We got to look at everything. First owner to ever come out. So his comments, his comments on Carson, it's just building up between Jim Irsay and Washington. So just made the funny comment that maybe they should throw down, the two owners. And that's a whole nother separate topic.
It'd be the most entertaining thing on Sunday. I can guarantee you that. Oh,
man. I sure hope not. Our friend Joe Harris from Facebook says 21-14 Commanders. Yep. I'm going to go with 20-19 Washington. I think it'll be just right around the over-under, but I think they'll come in under. And like you guys, I also think it'll be a very close game. Despite having a rookie quarterback start, he is mobile. It's always kind of been our Achilles heel is trying to figure out how do we check a mobile quarterback. And like I said before, mobility in a quarterback helps a young quarterback develop. I'm not saying Sam Ehlinger is going to be the guy for you, but it creates opportunities. It extends plays, and that's kind of where we are with our offense with Sam Ehlinger. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Are you guys going to be live streaming for the game on Sunday, Cody?
Yep, I believe so. I believe Derek will be live doing all that.
I'm going to talk mad crap on there. I'm letting y'all know.
Please do.
Yeah, it drives traffic to the channel. That's what we're looking for.
That's what we want, man.
That's right. Hey, Cody, we want to thank you for joining us, man. It's been a great time. Really appreciate the response to this and reach in.
You're fading out, Steve.
I am.
No, there you are.
Okay, sorry, I was leaning backwards at the microphone. But I want to thank Cody again for coming on here. And like I said before, for those who watching and those who catch it on the replay, go subscribe to the Bring the Juice podcast. You'll see the link down in the description of this on the podcast platforms, Apple, Google, Odyssey, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcast platforms, and on YouTube. We'll link the channel to their YouTube channel and to the Twitter handle. So interact with them, ask questions, join our live stream. They're going to be live streaming on Sunday. Make sure you do that. So, but Cody, let's give you a chance, man. Any shout outs, any plugs? How else can everyone else find you and your guy Derek?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find us on socials. You can find us, really anywhere you listen to podcasts. Like he talked about YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere. On the socials, you can find me at CP Felger 55. You can find my co-host Derek at Derek_larger. And then you can find the podcast at BTJ Pod on Twitter and also on Instagram as well.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we got to get on the IG thing, and we just started a TikTok. We're slowly getting out to the non YouTube and non podcast platforms. We're trying to branch out there, and we got to get on the IG thing next. That might be.
I don't have IG personally.
Yeah, he's more of the IG guy, man. I'm on there, but it's hard to manage. It's so hard to manage.
I'm on Pornhub. Y'all want to catch me there?
You got to do it. You got to do it. Shout outs, Phil Dev. You got any shout outs before we close out?
I shout out to Jim Irsay for making this week mean a little more than it did a couple weeks ago. That's really about it.
Yeah, Dev, what you got, Mr. Late bloomer over here?
Man, shout out to deleting your cookies. Seems to be the cure all for Chrome.
There you go. That's what it'll do. Clears out the cavity and lets you join the new, man.
I might have missed it, Cody. Where you from, bro? Are you from Indianapolis?
Don't live in Indy. I live a couple hours outside of it. So
you still in Indiana though?
I do. Yep.
Okay, we're close. I'm in Kentucky, so right over the line.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah.
I go over and gamble sometimes.
There you go. Nice. There you go. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Shout out to Cody and the Bring the Juice podcast for joining on with us. And we'll see how this game goes. Hopefully, it's a good game. At the end of the day, we all want to see some good football. You guys are probably in a rebuild. We apparently are trying to win in the NFC East, which apparently is the best division in football. Surprisingly,
wild card, baby, wild card.
We're in position to get the 7th wild card spot as it goes right now, but there's still a lot of football left. We're only in week 8, so we're almost.
Wouldn't that mean like 4 teams out of NFC East we have to go to the playoffs for us to get a wild card?
Yes, that's correct.
And that can happen.
It's possible. It is possible. Definitely possible. So, all right, signing off here, and as always, appreciate you joining, and peace and
so.